It might be the bye week for the San Francisco 49ers, but we don't sleep, and the coverage does not stop. There's always something to talk about with the Niners, and that's what we're doing here today. Who wants to talk some Niners draft targets? Let's dive in. We're taking a look at some Niners draft targets, players who San Francisco could be enticed by and pinpoint in April's 2026 NFL Draft, all based on Mel Kiper's big board. Mel Kiper been doing it for decades as ESPN's lead NFL draft analyst. And he released his top 25 big board recently. And so I want to take a look at players who make the most sense for San Francisco here. And just for the purpose of this outline and what we're accomplishing here on the show, let's begin with this, taking a look at the Niners 2026 draft needs, and this is as of right now going into the bye week. I think offensive line is a huge need for San Francisco. Trent Williams is 37 years old, and at left guard, you don't really have a long-term option there who's currently on the roster. At center, Jake Brendel is an older player, and I think that you could stand for an upgrade there. Now, the right side of the offensive line seems to be set with Dominic Pooney. He'll be going into year 3 of his rookie contract, and Colton McKivitz, who the Niners signed to that 3-year, $45 million extension. But on that left side, major question marks for the Niners. Although Trent Williams, I think he still has some gas left in the tank because after a slow start to the year, he started to play a lot better of late, the number 2 highest graded offensive tackle in football. Wide receiver is a big need for the Niners because I think San Francisco is going to move off of Brandon Ayuk, and Jauan Jennings is going to be a free agent. Now, if the Niners move off of Ayuk, obviously that clears up about $25 million in cap room for next year. Some of that could be allocated to Jauan Jennings. I wouldn't hate that. Along the defensive line, we don't know when Nick Bosa or Miguel Williams will be with this team next year. And the Niners lack some horses up front. And I like how some players have come on. Keon White's going to be under contract next year. I hope the Niners keep Clelin Ferrell around as a depth piece because he's only been a good player in his career with San Francisco. But you need some more dogs up front, and this draft class shaping up to be a good one along the defensive line. At linebacker, outside of Fred Warner, you have question marks there. I like the future of Nick Martin, but he can't even get on the field right now. And then I would look at safety as a potential need for the Niners. Malik Mustafa will be going into year 3 of his rookie contract, but Jair Brown will be entering the final year of his rookie contract. And so you could bring in a developmental player or a player who could potentially start right away. And obviously some of these players aren't going to be available for when the Niners pick comes around, but we also don't know where the Niners are going to be picking for April's NFL draft. So let's begin with a player who fits a need for the Niners. That's at wide receiver. Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State. Used to play at Colorado under Shedeur Sanders and with Deion Sanders. And he has really good size at the wide receiver spot. 6'2", 200 pounds. He's from Allen, Texas. Kyler Murray played his high school football at Allen. Never lost a high school start. One of the best high school athletes in the history of high school sports. Also was a terrific baseball player. Was a top 5 overall pick. And this year, Tyson, with Sam Levitt throwing him the pill, 61 catches, 711 yards, 8 touchdowns. Here's what Mel Kiper said about Tyson. The Colorado transfer has teamed up with quarterback Sam Levitt to light up defenses for 2 years now. Tyson's superpower is being open even when it looks like he's completely blanketed. It makes him essentially uncoverable in the red zone. He wins on 50-50 balls and outmuscles defensive backs. Tyson recently returned from a hamstring injury, which kept him out 3 games. I think the 40 time for Tyson will determine a lot for where he goes on the draft board. Carnell Tate, wide receiver out of Ohio State. I know his teammate, Jeremiah Smith, is the one who gets all the praise, but Carnell Tate has kind of flipped that on its head with a really good year this year, and I like his prospects of being an excellent player at the NFL level. 44 catches for 793 yards and 8 touchdowns. Been dealing with the lower body injury of late, but he did play against Michigan. He can run, and he has size, making plays downfield. Here's what Kiper said about Tate. Tate has produced big plays on a regular basis, averaging 18.2 yards per catch this season. He is a precise route runner, has great hands, and displays outstanding body control. He'll also happily block for ball carriers, which NFL coaches love to see. Tate has a lower body injury and has missed some time. Kyle Shanahan loves wide receivers who can block. He'll be watching some Carnell Tate film in the lead up to the draft. Mekhi Lemon, another wide receiver, as this is shaping up to be a pretty good wide receiver draft. He plays his college football at USC, and I think Lincoln Riley's done a pretty good job of turning that USC program around, although they haven't won many big games this year outside of beating ranked Illinois. 79 catches, 1,100 yards, and 11 touchdowns. Mekhi Lemon can really move, and he's tough as nails. Kiper with the scouting report on him. This kid is a warrior who plays with passion. I'd want Lemon on my roster. He snatches the ball away from his body in an attacking manner, then runs with a fierce approach after the catch. He is one of my favorite players in the class, and he currently ranks 3rd in the nation in receiving yards. Urban Meyer said this guy, or no, it was Nick Saban, who said this guy has been one of the best players he's seen in college football this year. I'd made some comps to Jackson Smith-Njigba because he's primarily a slot guy. Francis Muigawa. I think I got that right. This is an offensive tackle from Miami who some NFL people think might have to play along the interior. But what I like about him, his traits of being a mauler, and he's been very steady for the Miami Hurricanes this year. And we'll see if Miami gets into the college football playoff. They're on the bubble right now. Kiper on him. He's a true mauler. He's fun to watch for the way he just destroys pass rushers at the point of attack. He has more than 2,300 snaps at right tackle and has the pass protection skill to stick there, but he could absolutely slide inside and become a Pro Bowl caliber guard at the next level. He's allowed 1 sack and blown only 9 run blocks since the start of the year. One of my favorite players in this draft class is Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end out of Oregon. This is a tight end who can do it all. He runs really well. He has great feet. He moves extremely well. He's physical. He can absorb contact. And he's a physical blocker and enjoys blocking. And if the Niners ever wanted to get another weapon and run some more 2 tight end sets, they've struggled with some of the backup tight ends of late. Kenyon Sadiq could be that guy, and the heir apparent to George Kittle. 6'3", 245, 40 catches for 490 yards. He's a good red zone threat. 8 touchdowns for Oregon this year under Dan Lanning. Kiper on him. Sadiq is loaded with physical traits. He has the explosion to hurdle defenders in the open field. He has the vision and the speed to cause conflict after the catch, with almost half his 2025 yardage coming after the ball is in his hands. We know that Kyle Shanahan loves Yak Kings, and he's nearly impossible to match against because of his quickness and his size. Sadiq has been consistent this season, and he could be the first tight end off the board. He might be everything that we hoped Kyle Pitts would be, but more physical and more of a willing blocker. To the second phase of 5 players here, and let's go on defense here. David Bailey, the outside linebacker with Texas Tech, 6'3", 250 pounds. And for the pass rusher spot, that might be a little bit small for San Francisco because they like thicker defensive ends who can prioritize setting the edge and guys who can play on the inside too. But with the modern landscape of the NFL, I'd love to see San Francisco get some more speed guys off the edge. 36 tackles, 16 TFLs, 12 sacks, and 62 pressures this year for one of the best teams in the country. Kiper on Bailey. Transfer from Stanford. Niners love Stanford players. They have some ties there. John Lynch played there. Bailey gets after the quarterback. He had 14.5 sacks over 3 years for the Cardinal, and he has notably become more of a finisher this year. His 21.5% pressure rate, second in the nation, and he's up to 12.5 sacks in 11 games with the Red Raiders, unlocking another level of his game. One of my other favorite players in this draft class is Caleb Downs, a safety out of Ohio State. He's a player who can make an impact at all 3 levels of the field. I mean, when you watch him play, he's all over the field for Matt Patricia's defense. 6 feet, 205, good size there. He's from Georgia, 51 tackles, 5 TFLs, 2 picks, and 6 run stops. So he can mix it up around the line of scrimmage, and he's good on that back end. Kiper on Downs, the brother of NFL receiver Josh Downs, and the son of former NFL running back Gary Downs. So you got to love the NFL bloodlines there. He's basically an extension of the defensive coordinator. His football knowledge shows in his play. It's obvious when you watch him in the Ohio State defense, but what really impressed me is how well he picked up Nick Saban's system as a 2023 freshman at Alabama before transferring. He diagnoses quickly thanks to excellent pre-snap instincts, and that allows him to play faster than his straight line speed might suggest. Plus, Downs is solid in coverage, and he is a very reliable open field tackler. If Robert Saleh were to hang around, Caleb Downs could be a terrific player for him. If the Niners want to bulk up along the interior defensive line again, I know they did it with Alfred Collins and CJ West, but you need some more depth there. Peter Woods could be an option. Kevin Givens, Jordan Elliott, older players. Woods, 6'3", 310, 30 tackles, 2 TFLs, 2 sacks, and 9 pressures. I heard producer Chip, who went to Clemson, talking about Peter Woods, and he's kind of had a down year a little bit in 2025, but he's still going to be high on some draft boards for a lot of teams. Woods hasn't been elite in 2025, so Kiper echoing what Chip said, but the skill set is exactly what the NFL teams covet. He just needs to finish strong over the second half of the season in the pros. Woods would fit nicely at 3 technique, though he has the versatility to move around on a defensive front. He plays on the inside the majority of the time, but he can also be disruptive off the edge. So again, the Niners like that type of positional versatility from their defensive linemen. His strength will intrigue a lot of NFL teams no matter where he lines up. Back to the offensive line here, an offensive tackle. I know a viewer had asked me about this player a little while ago, but Spencer Fano, the offensive tackle out of Utah, 11 starts this year for the Utes, 0 sacks allowed. He stayed in state to play his college ball. He's from Spanish Fork, Utah, 6'6", 308. I'd like to see him bulk up a little bit. He's kind of in that build of a Mike McGlinchey, a very slender offensive tackle. Started 12 games at left tackle in 2023 before moving to the right side in 2024. He started 23 games there over the last 2 years, working opposite another highly regarded bookend in Caleb Lemieux. Fano does a great job of keeping his big frame between the pass rusher and his quarterback. He's technically sound and shows good punch to compensate for his lack of ideal arm length. So not great arm length, but I do like the tackle versatility playing at right tackle and at left tackle. Ruben Bain Jr., another pass rusher who we're talking about here on today's show out of Miami. Now, this is a player who from a size standpoint would fit what the Niners like at defensive end because he's bigger. He's not one of those slight 245 to 250 pound defensive ends and outside linebackers. If you're talking 3-4, which obviously the Niners run a 4-3, Ruben Bain is 6'3", 270. 35 tackles, 6 TFLs, 4 sacks, and 45 pressures this year. Kiper on Bain. Bain is powerful, has really strong hands, kind of like Miguel Williams. Routinely gets the best of some very good offensive tackles, often with his dominant rip move, and he knows every trick in the book in getting home to the quarterback, unlike Miguel Williams. Bain also shows speed and bend off the edge. He takes good angles, plus he can hold the edge against the run, and he can get off blocks to chase down ball carriers. His tape is just filled with disruption, but even with all those A-level traits, it's actually Bain's hustle that really stands out to me. He never takes a play off and fires at the ball on every play. That literally sounds like a prototypical Chris Kosaric, Robert Saleh, John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan type of defensive end. So with that, I ask you this. What position do you want the Niners to target? Join the conversation down in the comment section and share your ball knowledge with me. Let's get to our sponsor. Today's 49ers Report brought to you by PrizePicks. It's the holiday season, December in full swing. It's the best time of the year for sports. Bowl games, basketball matchups, playoff pushes. It's all happening at once. And while you and I are out here making decisions every day, what gifts to buy, what to eat, which games should I watch, there is one place where it feels good to be right. That place is PrizePicks. New feature alert, PrizePicks now has early payouts. If your lineup gets off to a hot start, you may now have the option to cash out of those winnings before the game even finishes. And let me ask you this, is your fantasy season over? Your team might be cooked, but with PrizePicks, you don't have to wait until next year's draft. PrizePicks lets you play fantasy football every week. Pick your favorite players and win when they hit their projections every week, no draft required. 3-pick power play for some action this week when the Niners are on their bye. James Cook, more than 99.5 rushing yards against Cincinnati. Joe Burrow, more than 253.5 passing yards against Buffalo. That defense is stunk. And then Emeka Egbuka, more than 60.5 receiving yards. It's as easy as that. Get your picks in less than 60 seconds. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, we continue to look at some targets for San Francisco in the upcoming 2026 NFL Draft, thanks to the Mel Kiper Big Board. And I'm going to crush this pronunciation. Vega Ioane. Vega Ioane is an interior offensive lineman out of Penn State who's an absolute mauler. I know that Penn State hasn't had a good season. I know their head coaching search has been an unmitigated disaster. Still without a head coach, and signing day was on Wednesday. But they have a bunch of NFL cats. 6'4", 328 for Ioane. 10 starts, 0 sacks allowed. Now, he's not a tackle. He's a guard. But he could play left guard for the Niners and be a plug-and-play player right from the jump. Ioane drives defensive tackles off the ball, sustains his blocks well, said Mel Kiper. He can get to the second level and torque defenders out of the way, and he's incredibly agile at left guard for his size. Ioane has 31 career starts and has given up only 2 sacks over that time, both in 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, it's 2025. This guy is a stud. Akeem Mesidor, defensive lineman out of Miami. So another lineman from Miami. 6'3", 265. So again, another player here who kind of fits what the Niners like from that defensive end spot. Not smaller guys who are speed rushers, guys who can win with power. This season for Mesidor, under Mario Cristobal, who's a hell of a recruiter, 46 tackles, 12 TFLs, 7 sacks, and 37 pressures. So he's been a highly productive player. What's the insight from Kiper? Mesidor started at West Virginia in 2020 and 2021, racking up 9.5 sacks, transferred to Miami before 2022, had 7 sacks in that first year. Injury limited him to 3 games in 2023, came back with 5.5 more sacks in 2024, looks great this year. The Canadian, makes his presence felt against both the run and the pass, and he shows good bend, closing burst, and power. When his initial move is thwarted, Mesidor never stops battling. He also brings some versatility with the ability to shade inside to defensive tackle and get pressure on the interior. Again, it just sounds like a Niner. So too does this player here. Keldrick Falk, defensive end out of Auburn. This guy is massive in size. From Alabama, stayed in Alabama, didn't play for the Crimson Tide though, played for Auburn. 6'6", 285 pounds from the defensive end spot. 27 tackles, 5 TFLs, 4 pass breakups, 26 pressures this season. Kiper loves him. If you could draw up the perfect NFL 4-3 defensive end, it would be Falk. He's what I call an LTPer. Someone who, LTP, looks the part. He can win with outside and inside moves, and he moves blockers with his super powerful hands. I see good overall instincts on tape too. Falk makes his presence felt against the run and the pass, and he is scheme versatile. Look at the wingspan in the background photo. Stupid athleticism. This is also a pretty good DB class if the Niners wanted to go that route. Mansour Delane, cornerback out of LSU, the number 22 player on Kiper's big board. That's what those numbers have stood for at the bottom of the screen, by the way. 6 foot, 190 pounds, Silver Spring, Maryland is where he's from. 43 tackles, 11 passes defended, and 2 picks. The Niners love college corners who have a history of making plays on the football. And that's what Delane does. Mel Kiper, I have been very impressed with the instincts and the savviness that he shows in coverage. True technician and has demonstrated excellent ball skills with 26 pass breakups and 8 picks over his 4-year career. He excels in both man and zone coverage and is 3.4 yards allowed per attempt on throws in his direction, 10th in the nation. He can make a lot of sense for the Niners as well. Amari Washington, defensive lineman out of Oregon. The Niners like Oregon defensive linemen, and they make it a point to go to a lot of those pro days because of the regional ties there. 6'3", 330 pounds from the interior defensive line, 30 tackles, 5 passes defended, 4 TFLs, 1 sack, 5 run stops this year. Washington putting it all together. He's powerful, he's quick and explosive, tough as nails. Teams are going to be interested in that combination, even if his game is still a little raw with no career starts before this season. Washington can clog up the middle against the run. He can power through with his bull rush to get interior pressure. We saw such a sack in Oregon's Week 7 game against Indiana. Very difficult to contain at the point of attack. He's still developing and could continue to rise up boards before April. Obviously, him being a little bit raw is a concern, but he pops on tape. Some draft talk for you right here on the San Francisco 49ers Report. Get you a significant other who can do it all. Get you a talk show host who can do it all. You can also find me on X, Instagram, and TikTok at Chase_Senior.